Hello, this is Manfred Oevers. Today we will be walking through the latest features of the IBM Master Data Management product in support of the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR for short, which is taking effect on the 25th of May 2018 and affects all companies worldwide that store or process data of EU citizens. GDPR has many facets, and a key part of the regulation is the concept of consent that is required to store and process personal data for an individual. The consent must be freely given, specific, informed, and unambiguous. Furthermore, it needs to be as easy to withdraw consent as it is to give it. Organizations need to be able to show how and when consent was obtained, and the data being collected must be for a specific and legitimate processing purpose. This requires that the processing activities related to such a processing purpose are made explicit. This means, in effect, that consent is becoming a type of master data about an individual, over which companies want to exercise government. Let's now take a look at the consent management user interface. After you log in, you are first presented with a search screen that allows you to find a person in the system whose consent you want to review. The search allows you to enter a set of criteria in order to find a person based on the name, address, contact information, and identifier, including wildcards. In this example, I'm searching for a person whose last name starts with ST. Next, you will be presented with a results screen, listing all person records in the system that match the criteria, together with some key attributes. We are going to review the entry for Tony Stark. You are now presented with the person record of Tony Stark, showing you all the consent items associated with this record in the context of the personal data stored in MDM. The top section presents an overview of the person, and the full set of name, address, contact, and identifier data stored in MDM is displayed in collapsible sections below. Let's now investigate the consent section and review some of the consent items on file for this person. The first thing you will notice are titles of each section, like business operations management or market management. These are the processing purposes for which consent has been recorded. What you also see in this overview of all the consent items is that some are active and some are inactive. You can filter for active and inactive consent, and also for consent with and without provisions. But before we talk about provisions, let's look at the details of a consent item that does not have provisions, namely business operations management. First of all, you can see that this consent is currently active and can be withdrawn by the toggle switch, which sets the valid until date to the current date, at which point the consent automatically becomes inactive. The expandable section regulated by captures which regulation this consent pertains to. While the prime regulations will be GDPR, there are other regulations requiring consent, and this can be captured here. The next section is the list of processing activities associated with this particular processing purpose. The detail mentioned so far always apply to all personal data that is stored in MDM for this person. It may be necessary to be more specific about the data for which consent is granted. Therefore, the consent model supports to express fine-grained provisions for consent given on personal data stored in MDM. We can see an example of provisions for the processing purpose as a whole in the next consent item, whose purpose is market management. There are two kinds of provisions, namely those that apply to the specific subset of data for a data subject, and those that apply to the processing purpose as a whole. The first type of provisions are called provisions for personal data, and they're used to express limitations on the personal data to which this consent applies, either by excluding or including this data from the consent, or explicitly including this data and therefore implicitly excluding all other data. The second type of provisions are called provisions for processing purpose, and can be used to express additional information that applies to the entire processing purpose. In this case, it is a list of values, which in this example is used to indicate the product types for which consent applies. This concludes our short tour of the consent management capabilities of IBM Master Data Management. For more demos related to IBM Infosphere Master Data Management, please visit ibm.com/master-data-management and explore our resources. Thank you for joining me on behalf of IBM Unified Governance and Integration, your partner in building a trusted analytics foundation.